All right, welcome to NFL Outdated Cover 2 series. This episode is on the Washington football team. I am joined by Brian Fong. You can find him on Twitter at MisterWhoo1, and also he is the host of the co-host of the WFT Declassified podcast. How's it going?
I'm doing awesome. How are you, man?
Any day I can talk about football is a good day. I love to say that, but it really is,
I second
Um,
that. It is always a good day to talk about football.
Well, speaking of that, you have, we talked about, football being a passion project for you in your podcast and the Washington football team. You've definitely seen some ups and downs on
A
the
little bit more,
field.
little bit more downs than up this year, unfortunately.
Right, right. And so let's just go ahead and start. I'm really intrigued by, this whole name thing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so interesting. As an outsider, this whole Washington football team, the name is kind of grown on me a little bit.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and I know that's part of the mix, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
what?
So
Yeah.
Yeah, so the name has been, obviously for us fans, it's been a big source of contention, angst. Like, what's it gonna be? I hope it's this. I hope it's not that. Washington football team is one of the contenders to stay that. There is the Red Wolves. That's a popular one. That's a very popular one among the fans, or Wolves, or a variation of that Red Wolves name. There's some other ones, Commanders, Defenders, Guardians, that are out there that are more kind of cartoonish or comic bookish. But Red Wolves among the fans is probably the most popular. Myself, that's probably where I would go. I would be happy with a Red Wolves or Wolves of some kind. But yeah, a lot of people, have said that the football team has grown on them, and I'm like, I can see it a little bit, but to me, football team's like a designation. That's what you do, right? It's not necessarily a logo or anything like that. But yeah, that's a big one. And the team has really tried to, and I'll give them credit, right? The previous regime, front office, didn't really kind of include any of the fans, really any, events or those types of things. And Jason Wright, the team president for the football team, has really tried to engage the fans. They've done a lot of polling. They've done a lot of like outreach in terms of the name. They had a website set up where people could put their fan submissions in there as to what they wanted the name to be, with their own even artwork of like logos that they, thought about and designed and things like that. So they've really tried to make the fans a part of the process. I think a lot of the fans appreciated it, but I also think a lot of them are like, all right, just announce the name already. Just give it to us, whatever it's going to be, good, bad, and different. So I think that's where we all are at right now. We're like, just give us the name, but they're waiting until 2022. I think they want to wait till the draft comes. Whatever the draft may potentially bring, and then kind of release new name, new logo, new uniforms, potentially. So we've got a little bit more time before we get the name, but it's coming.
So there's a lot of excitement then toward it then?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, everyone's dying to know. I mean, we've been now, for about a year, I guess, without the name, or without a name, I should say. So everybody's looking forward to it. Everyone, hey, it's the joke, right? And in the division, they'll, whoever we're playing, if we're playing the Dallas Cowboys, it says Dallas Cowboys, and then it just says football team. So I think everybody's kind of tired of that, and they're just looking for the name to be announced, a name. Hopefully it's Red Wolves as far as I'm concerned, but it could be Wolves, it could be Commanders, Defenders, Generals, who knows?
Right, right. Well, speak of a question that you may be tired of answering or thinking about, and I know this as a Bears fan. Talk a little bit about the present and the future quarterback situation. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick was only signed to the 1-year deal, and now he's hurt. It would have been so interesting to see Fitzmagic in this offense, and talk a little bit about that.
Oh
Situation.
yeah. So the team in the offseason, they tried to go after Matt Stafford. They tried to make a play for him, but the Rams, they came in with a stronger offer. So the kind of plan B or plan C, however you'd like to call it, was Ryan Fitzpatrick. And I think most fans, while they that wasn't their first choice, I think they were kind of resigned to the fact, okay, Fitzmagic, he can do some things, and so I think there started to be a buzz about it. He's a very likable guy. I mean,
Mhm.
he gave some great training camp interviews. Very likable guy, got along with everybody, and then in the first quarter of the first game of the season, injured hip, gone for the year, and just like that, oh, the season went down pretty quick right from there. So that leaves us with Taylor Heineke, kind of the hero of last season, of the 2020 season, who came in and played a hell of a game against Tampa Bay in the playoffs. And really, that really kind of got him his 2-year deal that he signed with the team. So he's become a fan favorite. He's got a lot of supporters, and he's well liked on the team. His teammates love him. He does try hard. But he does have some limitations, though. I mean, after watching him through these 9 games, you really kind of get the feel, his ceiling is a high level backup. I mean, I'd love to have him on the team going forward as our backup. You know, but there's just some things he just can't do. Some of the throws he just can't make, some of those deep outs. But he's what we've got right now. And of course, this past Sunday, he had a credible game against Tampa Bay again, and which we won. One of the few games that we won all year. But after him, it's Kyle Allen, another kind of backup quality guy who's got a handful of starts. So I mean, that's really all we're looking at. And I think the team, obviously, they knew they wanted to upgrade the quarterback position, which is why they went after Matthew Stafford in the offseason. So I do believe they are going to be targeting a quarterback come this offseason, whether it's via trade or via the draft. Now, they've had their scouts out at some of these college games looking at top prospects, but Rivera's kind of kept his plan close to the vest. So we're really going to have to wait and see until the offseason which route he goes, trade or through the draft.
Yeah. Speaking of Ron Rivera, talk about him a little bit and what he's meant to the team. He's obviously, been through some struggles of his own, and
Oh,
as
yeah.
a former Bear, I definitely root for him.
Yeah.
And he really seems to be a likable guy anyway. I just hope he does well.
No, Ron Rivera has brought a kind of air of respectability to this team. If anybody has even kind of just remotely kind of seen the Washington football team throughout the years, respectability isn't something that you kind of associate with the team, unfortunately. Whether it's from coaches, players, the owner, they've had so many issues that are just off the field, let alone on the field. And Ron Rivera has really come in and brought a level of discipline, a level of respect to the team. And much like you said, he dealt with cancer last year. If you think about a first time head coach, and he's not a first time, but this was his first year here in DC, you got to go through a name change, right? That changes on you.
Mhm.
There's allegations of all misconduct and things like that are coming up out of the past he's got to deal with. And then you have a quarterback and Dwayne Haskins he has to deal with. Can the guy play? Is he any good? You have to go through all of that. Oh yeah, and you have cancer during all of this. So, one of the things that I think really kind of endeared him to the fan base and also to his players, because his players love him. The roster that we have here in Washington, they all love him. He had his chemo treatments. He came back after his chemo treatment. He left the hospital and came back to work. He came back to the training facility, and his wife had drove him there. And he looked at his wife and he's like, "I can't get out of the car. I'm going to need you to carry me." So his wife had to carry him on one side, and the head trainer had to carry him literally arm in arm, drag
Wow.
him into the facility in front of his players, right? They're all in the weight room working out, and they saw him like, man, this guy is going through all this, but he's coming here to break down film and work with us on practice. And that really kind of galvanized them towards that playoff push that they made last year. So, given that effort that we saw this past Sunday, his players love him. So he's really become a favorite here. Now there are some fans. Hey, Washington fans, we've lost for a lot of years. So the fact that we're not having a good season, some of them were like, get rid of Ron. But for the most part, I think most of the fans do like what he's done so far. They're just ready for a winner.
Oh, absolutely. And so with the quarterback situation, were you surprised as a fan base that given the Rivera connection that they didn't go after Cam Newton or anything like that?
So yeah, a lot of fans were calling for Cam Newton. They wanted to sign him. They were tired of Taylor Heineke. They didn't really care for Kyle Allen, right? We'd seen him kind of last year and he got hurt. So it's like, why even go through that? So yeah, there were a lot of fans who were upset that we didn't sign Cam. I really wasn't surprised. I mean, Cam and Ron had been together for like 9 years. I think Ron had seen the best of Cam, and just because you guys, work together for 9 years doesn't mean you got to continue to work together, at another stop and another team. And I think Ron felt, hey, this is a different team, it's a different attitude, and it's a different group of players. I want to grow this group of players and not, kind of fall back on Cam where everything may just kind of revolve around Cam at that point. So I can understand his kind of hesitance to bring that back to the team. But that's a storyline that we're actually going to see this coming weekend, because we've got to go down to Carolina, and Cam is now back there, and there's a lot of juice there with him back in Carolina. So that's something we're going to see pretty quickly here.
Well, and talk about like defending him, or just that the defense, some of the key players on defense. I mean, there's been so many injuries.
Oh,
Talk about like right now some of the key players, and then the players that have been lost as well.
yeah, yeah. So the first big key guy is Jonathan Allen. Jonathan Allen, he signed an extension in the offseason. He by far this year has been our best defensive lineman. He's got 6 sacks, and he's been virtually unblockable here, these last several weeks. And Tampa Bay's offensive line can attest to that, because Brady got a lot of pressure up the middle. That's something that he doesn't particularly care for, which led to 2 interceptions by Brady, and really kind of helped us win that game. So Jonathan Allen is, not too many people know about him, but he is an excellent, excellent defensive lineman, defensive tackle. So he's the guy where it all kinds of start. And then his running mate, the other defensive tackle, Daron Payne, another guy he played with at the University of Alabama, has been another consistent run defender, another big guy in the middle who's very athletic and can really kind of move and penetrate into the backfield. Now, with those two guys being said, we used to have some edge rushers who were really good, but they got injured. They're injured now. Chase Young this past Sunday got hurt, ACL tear. He's going to be out for the rest of the year. The week before, or 2 weeks before, Montez Sweat got his jaw broken, so he's out 4 to 6 weeks. So right now at defensive end, we've got some 7th-round guys who are going to be starting and playing. So we've got a lot of question marks, from that end. In our secondary, we've had some kind of major changes there. Landon Collins last year got hurt, was out. So he didn't really get to play. We've had some younger guys step in. Cameron Curl played strong safety, 7th-round draft pick out of Arkansas. Excellent player. He played really well his rookie year last year. And then this year, he kind of got pushed to the side because Landon Collins came back. Landon Collins struggled so much this year at strong safety. Took about 6 weeks. Ron made the decision to kind of move him to a linebacker hybrid role. And he's been better. He's been better in that role where he's just kind of focused on that run game, on these shorter routes, because anything really further down the field, he struggled at and gave up some big plays. Cameron Curl has kind of now moved back into that strong safety, and we've seen a lot of those bigger plays kind of stop now with our defense that we gave up early in the year. Kendall Fuller, another guy who's a really good corner. He's been moved around. His play's been uneven this year. He had been last year and all the previous years in Kansas City, and going back to when he was actually with us, he'd been on the outside. This year they moved him into the slot. That kind of didn't work out so well, and then they actually took him out and moved him back outside. So he's been kind of moved around, but the last couple of weeks his play's gotten better. So our linebackers, I think is a kind of a sore spot for us. We drafted a middle linebacker, number 19, Jamin Davis, who really didn't play much in the first couple of games, but now he's getting a lot of playing time, and he's starting to show some of those flashes of his ability that we wanted to see from game one. But our linebackers probably we definitely need some help there. But that's where we are right now. We've got some injuries, and but they did look really good on Sunday, which was promising against the Bucs.
Well, yeah, it's so interesting because in my fantasy teams, I try to draft their defense because there's so much promise.
Yeah.
But even with some of the big players, I mean, they've struggled, and so it seems like just kind of really trying to find a fit together. That's kind of been the biggest thing then.
Yeah, so really the defense, and I think what had happened is they got a lot of success early last year. The first year under Rivera, the defense did really well. They were like number two in yards allowed, four in points, and they really kind of performed. And it kind of seemed like the younger players, like a Chase, a Montez Sweat, maybe some of that, had got to their heads a little bit. Where when they came into this year, I think they may have expected good things to happen as opposed to going out and making some of those good things happen. So there was a lot of struggle early on. I think the team kind of struggled with some of the adversity that they faced as opposed to really kind of buckling down, doing some of the techniques that the coaches were kind of trying to force on them, or not force on them, but really kind of reinforce with them. So you kind of saw it. It went off the rails right from game one, and then kind of slightly each week got a little bit better. But yeah, they certainly didn't pick up where they left off last year. There was a little bit of a step backwards at the beginning of the year, no doubt.
Well, so in a way, kind of with where the season is at right now, and I'm not sure like how much you expect from wins total, but with some of these injuries, now you get to see some of these late rounders see how they can develop. I mean, that could be a positive, right?
Oh, absolutely. I really think that there's a couple of guys. We've got Shaka Tony, a defensive end out of Penn State, was a seventh rounder. James Smith Williams, another seventh round defensive end that we have. Those two guys are very explosive. So we're going to get to see, hey, can they do it? Can they actually, be contributors, or maybe down the line, potential, starter or rotational guy. So we're going to get to see, pretty quickly, whether these guys can do it or not, or if we're going to have new needs come draft time. So yeah, I'm very excited to kind of see their play, kind of some of the linebackers that may come in. We've got a guy, Khalik Hudson, from the University of Michigan, second year player. He's kind of played a hybrid strong safety linebacker type role most of his career. So he's another guy who's going to be getting a lot of snaps here over the second half of the season. So yeah, very excited to kind of see what they bring, because like I said, these last couple of weeks, even without Montez and now without Chase, they did look pretty good. So hopefully they can continue that. As far as wins, I don't know how many wins they're going to get. It's a tough road. We've got a pretty difficult schedule down, like the rest of the year, with a lot of division games. So I think if they're able to show progression just from a standpoint of, hey, knowing their assignments, being able to execute, I think that's probably the best route to kind of look at them and say, hey, there's some growth right there. I think the wins will come, probably next year. We've got to figure out the quarterback position, because I don't think too much will happen if we don't get that figured out.
Oh, absolutely. That's in the NFL. I mean, as a Bears fan, I know that. I mean, until you have that guy that's you can depend on and grow with, and it really seems like when you look at a position of strength. I mean, you got the development of Terry McLaurin, and Samuel's been hurt. Is it Deami Brown then as well? I mean, talk about that group of the wide receiver core.
Well, first off, Terry McLaurin is a special wide receiver. Like, he has had some bums at quarterback to work with. I
Mhm.
mean, he's had some guys. He had Case Keenum. He's had Dwayne Haskins, Alex Smith. Alex Smith is not a bum, but he certainly wasn't. He was on one leg essentially for most of Terry's time. Kyle Allen, Taylor Heineke. He's had very limited quarterback play, and he's put up numbers. And not only has he put up numbers, he's gotten better each year. He is truly a number one. If we had a quarterback who could get him the ball within rhythm, within timing, I think you would probably see some of the eye-popping numbers that some of the top wide receivers put up. But he is just that good and that special. So he is well liked by the team and by the fans here. Curtis Samuel, there were some high hopes for him. We signed him in the
Mhm.
offseason to a nice deal, and we thought, hey, he's going to be Weapon X, right? We are going to put him all over. He's going to be split out wide. He'll be in the slot. He'll be in the backfield getting carries. He got a groin injury in OTAs, and that was it. That was basically a wrap. He could never kind of get the groin right. He still hasn't. He played a handful of snaps in the Atlanta game this season, and that's all we've seen of him. He's supposed to go to a specialist here this week, so we'll see, what that tells us if they finally put him on IR for the season. But they've been trying to work with him each week because they've been trying to see if they could get him on the field again, and it really just hasn't worked. So hopefully, they kind of come to the decision, okay, let's just put him on IR, get him ready for next year. But yeah, that's been a big disappointment not having Curtis Samuel there. And De'Ami Brown was an exciting wide receiver out of UNC. I really liked his vertical ability, his deep threat ability, and also contested catch ability at UNC. He had a really nice training camp. We start out the season and nothing. No, he didn't really kind of bring anything. And part of it is, the offense, Scott Turner, the offensive coordinator, was using him on more shallow kind of crossing routes as opposed to that vertical deep shot route that he was so good at UNC. So I think that was a little bit of adjustment for him. And then he got injured. So he's been battling injuries. He's been in and out of the lineup. So I think it's just kind of a tough rookie year for him right now, fighting some injuries, fighting some of the adjustments of what they're asking him to do within the offense. But as far as wide receiver, Terry is the stud. Not so much for the rest of the guys behind him, unfortunately. We've got a Cam Sims, who's a undrafted player who's been a nice addition, but he's a fourth, fifth guy on the roster. Adam Humphries, who's been a long time kind of slot receiver in the NFL, has been okay. He's had a few catches, but nothing, not an impact guy. He did have a big third down catch in that 10-minute drive that we had against the Bucs, which was nice to see. And then we've got a 7th-round rookie, Dax Milne, out of BYU, who used to catch passes from Zach Wilson, the Jets quarterback, who's made a couple of plays. But wide receiver group is a little thin for us right now.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting, I mean injuries happen everywhere, but I mean when one, it almost seems like when one happens, it just kind of an avalanche, and
They come in bunches, right? Like it's never just one guy and that's it. It's always okay, there's this one guy and then the rest of the receiver core is gone, or the rest of the offensive line goes down as well too. But I will tell you, this year the offensive line, right? There was a lot of talk about our defensive line being really good, so great, it's going to carry the team. It's been our offensive line that's carried the team. They have been excellent. I don't know if you follow any of the kind of the run block win rate statistics or pass block win rate statistics. ESPN puts those out, and they're a really good stat, just kind of an indicator of how well the offensive line does on a given play. And the Washington football team's offensive line has been highly rated, through the first 8-9 games. John Masco, the offensive line coach here, has done a hell of a job, with our offensive line, and they're excellent run blockers. They're improving as pass blockers as well, but they've done a really good job.
so obviously I have my Iowa guy Brandon Scherff up there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and who are some of the other standouts on that line that have really kind of contributed to that?
Yeah, so the first guy is our center, Chase Roulier. He is an excellent center. The team actually just signed him to an extension here this offseason. He is a really underrated center, extremely good, extremely good. Doesn't give up a lot of pressures and in the pass game, and is excellent in the run game. And another guy is our left guard. So Eric Flowers. Everybody knows Eric Flowers, drafted by the Giants to be a left tackle, failed famously at left tackle. We signed him a couple of years ago, and at that point we had Bill Callahan as our offensive line coach, who is now doing wonders in Cleveland right now. And Bill Callahan made him into a left guard, and he had an excellent season for us. Miami offered him a bunch of money. Of course, he took it. Which why wouldn't you take that
Right.
money? And he went to Miami, and he was there for a year. Brian Flores didn't like him. He didn't really fit their scheme. He came back to us, and he's been excellent. He has been excellent. I think the move to guard, I think, saved his career, and he seems to be enjoying football now. He didn't look like he was enjoying football when he was a left tackle in New York. He's having a lot of fun here. The fan base really likes him. And I know the coaching staff is very happy with him. But he won that job this year coming back. He had to fight off Wes Schweitzer, who's one of our backups, but he's also a starter. Schweitzer started a lot of games for us last year. He's also started for Brandon when he's been out as well too. And then the other guy is a rookie, right? Sam Cosme, who we just drafted. He was a tackle from the University of Texas. He has been excellent so far. He had a rough first game of the year. He had a Bosa brother that he had to deal with from San Diego. And offensive coordinator Scott Turner gave him no help, and he was out there, so he got a little baptism by fire. And after that, he's been solid. He's been excellent. Last couple of games, he's been out with an ankle injury. He should be back this week against Carolina, but he's been a really nice surprise. He's been really good. And then we've got a guy you may know, Charles Leno. So Charles, he's been good in the run game. He's given up some pressures in the past game, but he's been a solid player. And I will say about Leno, he's done a lot of, since he got to DC, he's done a lot of work in the community. Like, I think he's got a foundation that him and his family work through. But from day one, he's been a big part of the community, done a lot of fundraising and charity stuff here in the DC area. So that's been pretty cool to see. So the fans have kind of taken to him pretty quickly because of that. But, yeah, it's just been funny that the offensive line has kind of been the strength of the team where, we all thought the defensive line was going to be that strength, but it's actually turned out to be the other way for us.
Absolutely. Well, and talk a little bit about the running backs then that they're paving the way for. I mean, Antonio Gibson is one that I've been high on, in the offseason. He's definitely a talented player, but he's been injured, and McKissick has really carved out a really important role as well.
Yeah, so I'll talk about McKissick first because McKissick has been such a breath of fresh air. Like when we signed him, I thought he was just kind of an afterthought. He'll be here maybe a few games and then be gone because I never thought he had that type of value. McKissick is so good at catching passes out of the backfield. You can also split him out wide as well too, and he can catch passes. But he has this knack that, I think only a handful of backs do, where he can catch a check down and turn it into a first down, probably 80-90% of the time. And unfortunately, with our offense and some of the QB play we've had, that's been a necessary thing, right? Is taking that check down, a 2-yard check down and turning it into an 11-yard first down. And he's so excellent at doing that. He's had a lot of big plays for us because of that. He actually won us the Atlanta game. I mean, he caught a check down, outran the entire defense, and dove into the end zone for the score to help us win that game. So he's been a really good player for us. Been a nice surprise, and I hope we keep him. This is the last year. We'll see if that happens, but. Yeah, he has really carved out a role. Like I think maybe a handful of backs. Kamara has caught more passes over the last 2 years than him as a running back. So nice surprise. Gibson. Absolutely. Gibson is so talented. He's got size. He's got the speed. He can also catch as well, too. But yeah, this year he's had a shin injury that's kind of limited him some. He hasn't actually missed any games yet, but it has limited him some. But also, I think, some of the play calling has limited him, right? We've been behind, so we've had to throw it more. And, he hasn't gotten some of the carries. But Scott Turner has kind of almost done a kind of course correction with Gibson and also with the offense. On this past Sunday, Gibson got 24 carries. Now, he only had 64 yards, but the Buccaneers have the number 2 rush defense in the NFL. So he wasn't going to have a whole bunch of yards. And I mean, these were tough yards. I mean, yeah, you have 800-pound Vita Vea in the middle of that Bucs defense that you're trying to run on. Devin White, Levante David, Antoine Winfield. I mean, you've got a lot of hard-hitting guys out there. And Gibson was excellent. He ran inside. He ran with toughness. And by the end of the game, on that last 10-minute drive when we got down by the goal line, he ran in untouched. I mean, because he was so physical that game. It was very impressive to see. He ended with 2 touchdowns. So I think he's starting to, things are starting to slow down for him finally. So hopefully, the more carries that he gets, I think you'll start to see some of that ability kind of pop out now.
Well, and he's still really kind of learning the position as well, because like he didn't really have all that many carries in college, right? I remember that
No.
being the kind of the big knack on him, last year.
Yeah, I think it was something really it was about like 77 carries in college, like something like crazy like that, because he was a wide receiver, and it wasn't until he got to the Senior Bowl and they were looking at him and they were like, "Oh, well, go ahead and do go ahead and try out a running back as well too." So, yeah, very limited snaps as a running back. So last year was really kind of his first full year just at the running back position. So I think that kind of vision now, instead of looking at it from being split out wide, hey, you're having to line up behind the offensive line or behind the quarterback. That's starting to all kind of come together for him and slow down, because before, I think he probably would just kind of run into the back of the offensive lineman. Now he's kind of searching for where that crease is, where that hole's about to open, and you can see it in some of these runs that he's having. So yeah, definitely very much there'd been that transition to wide receiver to running back, but he seems to be coming along, and this last game here was a big step forward for him.
Absolutely. And talk about the tight ends. I mean, there's been injury there as well. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
Logan Thomas showed a lot of promise. Even like Ricky Seals Jones has come on. And I think Logan Thomas is set to come back. Is it this week or?
So they're trying to get him back this week.
Mhm.
It's looking like that may be a possibility. We'll see. How practice goes tomorrow. He's been doing some work on the side field, not doing full team drills yet. So tomorrow will be a big test for him to see if he makes it. But yeah, so Logan Thomas last year, his first year with the team. Everybody knows he's a former quarterback. Came into the league as a quarterback, got some game reps as a quarterback in Arizona. Last year, he had a breakout year. He had a bunch of catches, a bunch of yards, and really kind of solidified himself as a legitimate tight end. So this year, the kind of thought process was, hey, he's going to take that next step, right? He's gonna be that big target over the middle, consistently. The passing game really stuttered right out of the gate, right? Fitzpatrick goes down, and now we've got a backup in there, kind of learning for the first time as well. So that kind of slowed everything, and then he got hurt. So he's been out for several games now, but he's still viewed as a really good prospect, a really good tight end who's still kind of ascending and learning the position as well too. Ricky Seals Jones. Ricky Seals Jones had a huge catch in the New York Giants game earlier this year that helped us win that game. And that just kind of gave you a little snapshot of what he could do. But he's also another younger player. He's actually a converted wide receiver to tight end as well, from college into the pros. But he has been also a nice surprise. He's gotten better at his blocking. He's got better route running as well. He also got hurt in this past game. He's got a hip injury, so we don't know what's going to happen with him. That leaves us with John Bates, rookie tight end from Boise State. Maybe not as athletic or explosive as the other two tight ends that are hurt that we have, but really good hands. Really good hands. Probably a little bit better as a blocker than the other two guys. And then the next guy we have, huge fan favorite, the Chilean sensation Samus Reyes, international player who we signed. Everybody loves him. Never played football before. His first time, was in the preseason. He got his first actual regular season game reps this past Sunday. I think he had 4 snaps, just out there blocking, but he certainly is a fan favorite. Everybody loves him, even though he's done next to nothing.
Right.
So that's where we are right now. It's John Bates, a rookie tight end, and Samus Reyes. So hopefully we can get Logan Thomas back here this week against the Panthers.
Tight end is such an interesting, position. There you have the top tier in the league, and a lot of teams kind of trying to copycat that and
Oh yeah.
find that next, great, I don't know, basketball player to tight end Antonio Gates or
And that
and
and and that's what they're trying to do, right? Like Samus
Mhm.
Reyes, played basketball at Tulane, and I mean, he is every bit the power forward that you think about. I mean, he is tall. I mean, he's built like a bodybuilder. I mean, he's and surprisingly for never having played football, he's a pretty physical blocker. His route running and hands, those are all works in progress. But yeah, you're exactly right. People are trying to find that power forward type to come play tight end.
Well, talk about like the needs for next year, the 2022 draft. I mean, whether they do try to find another linebacker or another tight end, or you said linebackers have kind of been underwhelming a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Where do you see the football team going in the draft?
Yeah. So first and foremost, it's going to be quarterback. I think
Mhm.
this team is going to have to get a guy. Hopefully, it's early in the draft. If they don't have enough to kind of trade up to get him, depending on where we are. I mean, we're not that great of a team this year, so we may just end up being already, in the top five or something like that. But that's going to be target number one. I mean, they know they need a quarterback. You've got a new name coming, new uniform, new logos. You can't, introduce all that and then say, okay, here's your new starting quarterback, Marcus Mariota. Like that just won't work.
Mhm.
You're going to have a guy, somebody who can kind of give you hope and that you can kind of make plans around. So that's number one. But yeah, linebacker, that's going to be another big one. Hopefully Jamin Davis, kind of breaks out in his second year, but that's still just Jamin Davis. We're going to need some more. We have Cole Holcomb. I think he's a serviceable player, but certainly upgrade is needed there. And then left tackle, Charles Leno Jr., only on a 1 year deal. He's an older player. So, hey, if you do draft a quarterback of the future, you're probably going to want to protect him. So left tackle, I think, is going to be big. And then, yeah, we've got wide receiver, we've got cornerback, we've got tight end, kind of all in that, that bottom of our needs list. They're all kind of jockeying for position. So we do have some needs, but I think the main one is going to be that quarterback position. That's going to be the big headline and storyline.
And do you have any that you or the fan base kind of like, most? I mean, you got like a Matt Corral out of Ole Miss, or as a Bears fan, I would just caution against the North Carolina quarterback and Sam Howell, but
Yes, right, right. Well, hey, so my mother-in-law is a big Bears fan.
mm,
She's so far very happy with Justin Fields. Hopefully, I
absolutely.
don't know. Yeah, that's awesome. Hopefully, you guys are. I really like Justin Fields coming out. But yeah, so one of the ones that I've been following, Kenny Pickett, University of Pitt, is a guy who I really like a lot, and I think would fit the offense here, would fit Scott Turner, would fit Ron Rivera as well. You go down. I do like a Sam Howell, but he does scare me. He does not slide at all. He just kind of runs headfirst into guys. And having had RG3, who for whatever reason did not know how to slide, or it took him forever to learn how to slide, is not something I want to go through again. So yeah, there's a lot of fans on social media who like Matt Corral. Or is it Coral or Corral? I don't know how you pronounce that one.
I'm not
Um,
100% on that one either. Yeah.
but he's another one that the fans really seem to like. And then you kind of go down to that next tier. The Desmond Ritter out of Cincinnati is another guy that I really like. I think he has all the athletic ability to be a long-term starter. And then after that, you're talking about really projects from there. So those are kind of the guys I'm looking at right now. We'll see what the team comes up with, and kind of how they look at that position. But that is certainly need number one for us.
You're right. I mean, it really is an important position, and it's such an interesting draft. I mean, you don't have those top tier. I mean, you've got some good ones, but you don't have that can't
Yeah.
miss prospect. I mean, like a Trevor Lawrence or something like that.
Yeah, no, I think it's certainly one of those drafts where, yeah, are you going to get this Hall of Fame guy who gets you 3 4 Super Bowls? Probably not. Are you going to get a guy who could be certainly a quality starter for 5 maybe 6 years? Yeah, I think so. I think there are guys like that who can be like a Kirk Cousins, who can be just hey, a quality regular season starter maybe until you find the next guy like that. So they're going to have to do their work. They've got their work cut out for them to scout, do some interviews, and figure out who that QB is going to be.
I would be remiss if I didn't say, you like that?
Yes, yeah, right, exactly.
My one of my co-hosts, uneducated takes. He's a Vikings fan,
Vikings,
so
yeah,
yep.
yeah.
So he's um,
How is he? What's his take on Cousins?
ups and downs. So yep,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
yep. So a lot of it's on the coach though, and
yeah.
thankfully, you look at the football team, and it looks like they've got a solid coaching staff. You
Yes.
know. I don't want to touch on too much of it, but what are the fans' thoughts about the ownership issues and just all of that? I mean, just kind of want to just
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Well, I think all the fans are in agreement that they want the owner gone, right?
yeah.
They're not happy with his behavior, the decisions he's made over the years. So I really don't know any fans. Maybe there are some who like the owner, but a majority of the fans don't. I think we're all in agreement that his leadership has been seriously lacking. His judgment has been seriously lacking, and that a time for a change at the top. That's all easier said than done. We've got no kind of control over any of that. But yeah, none of the fans are happy with the ownership and what they've done. I think we're all trying to figure out, you know, how we can win in spite of the owner because that's essentially all out of our hands, and that's what we've got to work with. But yeah, no one is happy with with that owner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a yeah, just a kind of a very messy situation. And
Well, absolutely.
speaking of kind of looking at the prospects of the team, like how far realistically would you say that they maybe are from at least contending to be in a Super Bowl, let alone kind of win it?
Oh, for a Super Bowl, I mean, until you get a quarterback, you're not even on the clock yet, right? Like, I wouldn't even say we don't have a quarterback, so there's no possible way we could get to a Super Bowl. Now, once you do get your guy, I think with some of the pieces that we already have here, I, I don't see any reason why within 2 to 3 years that can't be where we're at. But again, that clock doesn't start till you get the quarterback. So right now, I mean, we're not close. We're not close at all. But once you do get the guy, change can happen fast because a franchise quarterback, they can make up for so many other flaws and mistakes, either with your offense and with your defense or with your coaching staff, right? Like, I mean, that's what great quarterbacks do. That's why they get paid $35 million a year. Because they can do special amazing things like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, as a Bears fan, I mean, Rex Grossman took us to the Super Bowl, or at
Oh
least
man.
he rode along. And had there been at least a competent quarterback, I mean, that
Oh,
defense would have carried them to that win. And you know it it seems like, well, from last year that the Washington the defense was ready to take that step, and hopefully with injuries kind of going into next year and kind of getting healed up, and hopefully they'll be able to take that step that they were expected to this year,
yeah.
next year.
Yeah, and I think my hope is that they will. I know Ron has done this before, right? Like he went to Carolina, and that was a bad team when he got there, and he had to do this, right? He had to go through a bad year or two, and then by the third year, they were really good. So, for him, this isn't anything new. I know for us Washington football fans, it's year 30, right? Like we're so over it. We want it now. We want the quarterback, the championship. We want winning seasons. We want it now. But yeah, that's the hope, right? Is that Ron's done this before and that he's able to kind of replicate that here.
Because yeah, he's not in danger of being on a hot seat anytime
Oh
soon, is
no.
he? Yeah.
No, 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 no. It's been kind of reported around here that with Ron taking the job, that there were guarantees of sorts. So believe it was a 5 year deal. He's here for 5 years, at the very minimum, honestly. And I mean, we just talked about the owner and his issues. I think he probably wants to keep Ron around to keep
Hmm.
people off of some of the issues that he's had. So,
Hmm.
Ron is here for 5 years. He's gonna build it. Hopefully, he can build it up to where we all want it to be.
Absolutely. Well, this has been fun. I definitely appreciate you
Yeah.
sitting down with me. And so everyone can find you where again?
Yeah, everyone can catch me on Twitter at MisterWhoo1 with two O's. Our podcast handle is at Declassified WFT Washington Football Team. We actually also have a website that'll be coming out here shortly. So check us out on Twitter for updates on that as well too.
And when do you usually, release your pods, or when do you
Yeah,
get?
we record Monday night, so we usually drop it late Monday night Eastern time, if not Tuesday morning. So anywhere in that time frame, you'll see something coming out from us.
Definitely. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it. And once again, this has been NFL Outdated Cover 2 series on the Washington Football Team, and hopefully soon we'll know exactly what the name is. So thanks again.
Hey, no, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. This was a lot of fun, and go Hawkeyes.